Welcome to this session on contemporary socio-political philosophy. In this session, we discuss Mahatma Gandhi's theory of trusteeship. Gandhiji and Gandhism need no introduction. He was commonly known as Bapu and popularly regarded as father of nation in India. In fact, Gandhiji belonged to entire mankind and not to India alone. He was the preeminent leader of Indian nationalism in British-ruled India. His doctrines and views in society, education, economy, peace, women, Dalit, etc. may still prove guiding to the tumultuous present-day world. Gandhi's philosophy was not theoretical, but one of pragmatism. Gandhiji's economic philosophy was built on his social ideas of Swaraj, truth and non-violence, which was consistent with his political and moral philosophy. From the idea of Swaraj emerged the ideas of Swadeshi and self-sufficiency. And from the principle of truth and non-violence emerged a series of economic ideas like non-exploitation, non-possession, trusteeship, bread labor, and so on. All these ideas, which in fact having originated under different contexts, form the founding pillars of Gandhiji's economic system. Gandhiji's economic ideas have to be given serious consideration for solving the pressing socio-economic problems in an underdeveloped country like India. According to Gandhiji, everything belonged to God and was from God. Therefore, it was for his people as a whole, not for a particular individual. When an individual has more than his proportionate portion, he became a trustee of that portion for God's people. That is why he talked of equality of distribution of the national wealth. For the equal distribution of the national wealth and thereby the existence of complete equilibrium, he put forward the theory of trusteeship. Gandhiji gave the concept of trusteeship the sanction of philosophy and religion behind it. He was deeply influenced by Ruskin's Unto This Last, and he was the firm opinion that, by nature, all human beings were equal and there should not be any economic discrimination or disparity among different individuals in respect of income, consumption, and other bare necessities of life. This will lead to non-violence in thought, and demeanor was the main spirit of Gandhiji's theory of trusteeship, which could be used as a weapon against those who were unwilling to divert their personal property into public wealth. Trusteeship is a socio-economic philosophy that was propounded by Gandhiji. People are running out of patience and are looking for a system that alternative for both socialism and the capitalism. This is because of socialism assumes man to be a social unit who has no individuality of his own. They are assured to bread at the cost of their freedom. On the other hand, capitalism recognizes the individuality of man but is unable to provide bread to all. So there is the necessity of a new system which provides both bread and freedom to the man and should be free from the evils of capitalism and socialism. The concept trusteeship only can provide such a system. The concept of trusteeship was derived by Mahatma Gandhi from a study of jurisprudence, Snell's principle of equality, and the Gita. Trusteeship means all money and property originally belongs to society, and those who possess it are only the trustee of the society, whose duty is to increase the earning and value of the trust property. He should charge only that much from the trust property as is absolutely essential for his subsistence and honorable living. Excess of one's income over and above one's is a social surplus to be employed for the benefit of the society. Breach of trust is crime and is punishable under law. Trusteeship will dispense with the use of middlemen. If the villages are self-sufficient, the producers will be in direct contact with their customers. The absence of monetary incentives will also discourage hoarding and speculation. This will limit the use of money to a minimum and will give the stability to prices. The trusteeship theory of Gandhiji does not recognize the inherent unrestricted, irresponsible and absolute right of private property. His concept of trusteeship did not recognize hereditary inheritance of property. He visualized a transition or transformation from individual ownership, a community or trust ownership in the long run. Trustees maybe get the remuneration for the work done through common consent of workers and the state. For Gandhiji, trusteeship involved the building of consensus of a society for implementing it for social good. Gandhiji wanted that the rich should become the trustees of the society by sharing their surplus wealth with the poor and underprivileged. Gandhiji, in his own lifetime, was aware of the deep influence of human craving for material comforts of life, which caused a few to accumulate wealth of the society disproportionate to their needs and at the cost of the majority who are ignorant, poor, and living a life of ceaseless misery. Against this background, Gandhiji formulated his theory of trusteeship. Trusteeship could bring about equal distribution of the accumulated wealth for societal happiness through emphasis on metaphysical and religious aspects of life. Trusteeship provides a means of transforming the present capitalist order of society into an egalitarian one. According to this concept, the owner of capital does not abuse his ownership rights to increase his own prosperity by exploiting other classes, and the owner acting as a trustee of the social interest. Then, all classes can live in harmony and work for each other's prosperity. The idea of trusteeship has been inspired by Gandhiji from the concept of non-possession of capital. It does not recognize any right of private ownership of property except so far as it may be permitted by society for its own welfare. Thus, under state-regulated trusteeship, an individual will not be free to hold or use his wealth for selfish satisfaction or in disregard of the interests of the society. Gandhiji wanted that the rich should become the trustee of the society by sharing surplus wealth with the poor. In other words, all money and property originally belongs to society, and those who possess it are only the trustees of the society whose duty is to increase the earning and value of the trust property. Excess of one's income over and above one's is a social surplus to be employed for the benefit of the society. Breach of trust is a crime and is punishable under law. Qualities of a trustee. A trustee is one who self-consciously assumes responsibility for upholding, protecting, and putting to good use whatever he possesses, acquires, or earns. He is always a moral gem. A trustee has no heir but the public. The following are the essential qualities of a trustee. 1. He is self-governing. 2. He is morally sensitive. 3. He always knows the unmet needs of others. 4. He always strives to become self-regulating, reliable, and sacrificial. 5. He never exhibits selfish indifference. 6. He enjoys inward moral balance. 7. He has a benevolent and self-sustaining motive. 8. A trustee should be a man of high character. Complete honesty on his part is presumed. 9. He should never use trust money and property for his own personal work. 10. He should know that he is more of a servant of the corporation and not a boss. Now the question is, how many can be real trustees? Gandhiji felt that if the rich do not become the trustees voluntarily, forces of circumstances will compel them to do so unless have no desire for averting the disaster. Trusteeship is an attempt to secure the best use of property for the people by competent hands. Sources of trusteeship. Trusteeship was not just an economic expedient for Gandhiji. It was a way of life. His theory of trusteeship is no makeshift. It has the sanction of philosophy and religion behind it. The concept of trusteeship should be viewed in the context of the values it stood for. The doctrine is as old as the ages. But it was the Mahathma who tried to apply this philosophical teaching to the concrete realities of life for the solution of the existing economic problems. Gandhiji based his trusteeship doctrine on a celebrated verse in the ancient Hindu philosophical scripture. Ishopanishad says, all that is in the universe is pervaded by God, renounces first. Therefore, in order to enjoy, covet not anybody's riches. Gandhiji accepted trusteeship as a practical proposition which shall liberate the wealthy and the possessing class of their sin of acquisitiveness and greed and effect a change over in favor of egalitarian society. Advantages of trusteeship. Gandhiji felt that trusteeship was a potent weapon to remove the ills of a capitalist society by transferring it into an egalitarian society based on justice and fair play. He had equally firm faith in the ultimate goodness of human good. He recognized private property as an unnecessary evil at worst, and insofar as it served the interest of the society at its best. Under state-regulated trusteeship, the difference between the minimum and maximum wages would be reasonable and equitable so that a rational and functional social order could emerge on the basis of equality. The allocation of resources will be most efficient under trusteeship, as trusteeship no scope for monopolies or monopolistic competition. It allows equal distribution of wealth. The real meaning of equal equality is to each according to his needs. Gandhiji did not want it to produce a dead equality where every person becomes or is rendered incapable of using his ability to the utmost possible extent, for such a society carries with it seeds of ultimate destruction. This leads us to the crucial problem of economic through advocated by Gandhiji, the doctrine of trusteeship. Gandhiji always stressed the simplicity and satisfaction of the basic needs of human life as the cornerstone of his entire economic philosophy. He was of the opinion that the earth was endowed with enough resources to meet everyone's basic needs. But the greed of men for competitive acquisitiveness leading to the concentration of wealth in the hands of a small, privileged and influential section of the society positively deprived the basic needs of the majority in the society. Through trusteeship, Gandhiji wanted to establish an equitable economic order through a proper scheme of distribution of the accumulated wealth to all members of the society. His main concern was to remove selfishness from human beings by appealing to the moral consciousness of the individuals. Trusteeship was created to primarily provide an opportunity to capitalists and landlords in whose hands a huge quantum of wealth of the society. The capitalistic were expected to act as trustee along with other representatives of the society. Trusteeship was indeed a non-violent alternative to class warfare and mass violence, since it emphasizes the ethico-religious dimensions in human beings. The unbridgeable gulf between the peasants and the landlords, the workers and the mill owners, the people of the state and the Indian princess, the classes and the masses deeply influenced Gandhiji's mind. He believed that the laborers and the capitalists could work together harmony like a great family, with each functioning for mutual good, mutual advancement. Gandhiji therefore held that the capitalists were to regard themselves as trustees for those on whom he depends for the making, the retention and increase in his capital. The objective of the trusteeship theory was to destroy capitalism and not the capitalists. Basic ideals of trusteeship. Number 1. It provides a means of transforming the present capitalist order of society into an egalitarian one. It gives no quarters to capitalism, but gives the present owning class a chance of reforming itself. It is based on the faith that human nature is beyond redemption. Number 2. It does not recognize any right of private ownership of property. Number 3. It does not exclude legislative regulation of the ownership and use of wealth. Number 4. To fix a decent minimum living wage, even so a limit should be fixed for the maximum income that would be allowed to any person in society. The difference between such minimum and maximum income should be reasonable and equitable and variable from time to time. Number 5. Under the Gandhian economic order, the character of production will be determined by social necessity and not by personal greed. Number 6. Under state-regulated trusteeship, an individual will not be free to hold or use his wealth for selfish satisfaction or in disregard of the interest of society. Basis of trusteeship. The theory of trusteeship is based on 3 Gandhian principles: non-violence, Swaraj, and equality, which are interlinked with one another. Broadly speaking, truth, that is Satya, non-violence, that is Ahimsa, bread labor and non-possession, that is Aparigraha, led Gandhiji to the concept of trusteeship. Truth. Gandhiji's goal was truth. He wanted to realize truth through non-violence. To him, truth is harmony of thoughts with words and of words with actions. To Gandhiji, the statement, truth is God, is only partial. The statement, truth is God, is all-inclusive and pervasive. Thus, each and every one would be serving God. According to Gandhiji's definition, truth is God. To him, truth stands above everything, including man, to uphold truth. Gandhiji says, wife, children, friends, possessions should be held subservient to truth. Each one of these should be sacrificed in search of truth. Non-violence. Gandhiji saw that the idea of trusteeship was inherent in the ideology of Ahimsa. Non-violence is the practice of being harmless to self and others under every condition. It means abstention from violence based on moral, religious, or spiritual principles. Non-violence is the law of the human race and is infinitely greater than and superior to brute force. It is linked with peace, passivity, and pacifism. Love of enemy, or the realization of the humanity of all people, is a fundamental concept of non-violence. For him, trusteeship was an inescapable stage in the methodology of a non-violent revolution. It was both a means and an end. Hence, Gandhiji claimed no other theory is compatible with non-violence. Bread labor. For Gandhiji, labor is the root of the entire creation. Work is God. Everyone can see God through his own work. He believes that nobody should eat his bread without performing sufficient labor. The idea is that every healthy individual must acquire legitimate right to get his bread. Nobody should acquire more than his absolute need. In other words, need-based acquisition is the route to establish egalitarian society. When everyone works and becomes trustees of their labor, they will not be either rich or poor. Non-possession. According to Gandhiji, non-possession means non-dependence on material things. It implies total abolition of private property in all kinds of belongings. Non-possession is the result of non-stealing. Non-possession makes a man to keep everything open. Trusteeship gets life. In trusteeship, nothing is hidden. The concept of non-possession commands certain social implication which leads to trusteeship. Number 1, in a society where non-possession is in practice, wealth is not the mark of respect. Number 2, multiplication of wants is not the measure of civilization. Number 3, as every need is to be fulfilled by work, work is the medium of self-expression and existence. Number 4. A man of work possesses a right to honorable livelihood. Number 5. As all work has equal value, all receive equal remuneration. Number 6. The means adopted is always based on truth and non-violence. Number 7. Such an ethical life leads everyone to attain self-realization. The Gandhian theory of trusteeship has a permanent truth, and its validity is being more and more realized in the West today. A. Morgan writes, modern life with its rapidly growing complexities greatly increased the number of situations in which the only sound relation is that of trustee, and growth of a sense of responsibility has not been sufficiently rapid to meet these changing conditions. In the field of industrial ownership and management too, some thinkers and practical men of affairs in the democratic West are coming to the conclusion that a superior alternative to both the capitalist and state ownership and management is a new form of ownership and management based on what might be termed the principle of trusteeship. The trusteeship concept of Gandhiji is relevant for the present day society because trusteeship stands for distributive justice, economic equality, and radical change of structure, all of which are pressing needs of society today. Now, let us summarize the session. This session introduces Gandhiji's concept of trusteeship. Here we studied the significance and necessity of the concept of trusteeship among the socialism and capitalism. From the above, we can understand that it will bring economic equality. Through economic equality, society will also secure for every man full opportunity for the development of his physical, mental, and moral powers without allowing him to restrict similar opportunity in others. It stood for the welfare of individual and thereby the society. According to Gandhiji, the theory of trusteeship was an intrinsic part of his overall scheme of peaceful transformation of society. It also brings about the basic assumptions of trusteeship and the basis of this concept. Now try to work out the given assignments. 1. Evaluate the importance of trusteeship. 2. Briefly explain the evolution of trusteeship. 3. Is the concept of trusteeship is applicable to the existing conditions of society? Discuss. 4. Elucidate the term state-regulated trusteeship. 5. Gandhian economic thought is mainly based on trusteeship. Why? Now I can suggest some books for your further studies. First one, Towards Gandhian Plan, written by Narayan Shriman, published by S. Chandan Company Limited, New Delhi, 1978. Next is Trusteeship, Means of Equalitarian Social Change, written by Bhattacharya B.K., published by Janata, 1978. Next is Relevance of Gandhian Economic Thought for Social Transformation, Political and Economic Review, written by Suri M.M. in 1970. Next one is Economic Thinking of Gandhiji, The Theory of Trusteeship, written by Naqvi S., edited by S.C. Bishwas, published by Simla Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, 1969. Next book is Gandhiji's Theory of Trusteeship, an essay in understanding, written by Varma Ravindra, published by Gandhi Marg in 1985. Next one is Gandhian Doctrine of Trusteeship, written by Indira Surineni, published by Discovery, New Delhi in 1991. Thank you for watching this session. See you next time. Until then, bye.